Tonight at 5, Commonwealth leaders agree that Prince Charles will one day succeed the Queen as head of the organisation. It follows a meeting of more than 50 leaders who've been considering the future direction of the Commonwealth.
Today will be a memorable occasion for all of us, and by the end of which I'm sure we'll be able to leave even closer friends and with a unique understanding of each other in ways which cannot be matched by other summits.
I'm Ben Brown. I'll be reporting live from Buckingham Palace, and we'll be finding out exactly what the Commonwealth leaders have decided and agreed at this summit at a news conference later on this hour.
We'll have more from Ben shortly. The other main stories on BBC News at 5. Goon but not forgotten. After nearly 22 years in charge, Arsene Wenger will step down as Arsenal manager at the end of this season.
I'm outside the Emirates Stadiums where fans have been discussing why Arsene Wenger has gone now and what will happen next.
The clear-up in Salisbury continues as government scientists warn the decontamination of 9 hotspots could take months. And the hot weather looks likely to last into the weekend. People running the London Marathon on Sunday are warned to take extra precautions. Hello, good evening. Welcome to the BBC News at 5. We will talk about the Commonwealth and that very important meeting in the next few minutes. Just to show you the scene, though, right now inside the Emirates Stadium in North London, because we are waiting for a news conference from Arsenal's CEO. That is due to get underway quite soon. The room does look pretty full of journalists, and we wait to hear much more about that announcement this morning that Arsene Wenger is leaving the club. He will go at the end of the season after very nearly 22 years in charge. That divides opinion. He divides opinion, and his decision to go is doing the same. So we will hear more from the club's CEO and perhaps talk a little bit more about what the future holds. So we're very much keeping an eye on that at the Emirates, and we'll be back there when that news conference gets underway. Until that starts, though, we will, of course, talk about the Commonwealth, because Commonwealth leaders who've been meeting today in Windsor have agreed that Prince Charles should succeed the Queen as the head of the organisation. The Queen said yesterday, of course, that she hoped the Prince of Wales would one day take on the role. We're expecting a news conference, in fact, after 5:30 to mark the closing of this biannual meeting. Well, let's find out the very latest about today's events from Ben Brown at Buckingham Palace. Ben.
Yes, Jane, it was here at Buckingham Palace in the ballroom yesterday, in fact, when the Queen formally opened this summit, that she made it crystal clear that she wants her son and heir, Prince Charles, the Prince of Wales, to succeed her one day when the time comes as head of the Commonwealth. Now, she said it was her, quote, sincere wish. So really it was more than a hint to the leaders of the Commonwealth, this family of 53 nations. Now, the position as head of the Commonwealth is not actually hereditary, so there had been suggestions that perhaps it could be rotated between member nations. Well, this issue might seem a little bit esoteric to some, but it is important not only for the Queen and the royal family here at Buckingham Palace, but it's also important for the Foreign Office and the UK government as a whole, that Britain is still and remains at the helm of the Commonwealth at a time when we are leaving the European Union and searching for new trading partners around the world in the post-Brexit era. Our diplomatic correspondent James Landale has this report.
This is something that's never happened before. Almost 50 Commonwealth leaders gathering amid the splendour of Windsor Castle to discuss their future. It's called a retreat, where they sit without advisors, agenda, and yes, without a table, to talk frankly among themselves about what the Commonwealth needs to do to prove its relevance to ordinary people.
Good morning, everybody, and welcome to Windsor Castle.
The Prime Minister said the leaders were committed to revitalising the Commonwealth, making it more sustainable, prosperous and secure. But
a conversation about these challenges cannot ignore the fact that at the very moment that international cooperation is so important, some nations are choosing instead to shun the rules-based system that underpins global security and prosperity. But I look forward to discussing how the Commonwealth can play its part to support the rules-based order and the very concept of international cooperation.
So today the leaders will walk through all the issues the Commonwealth is facing, the threats from the environment and cyber, and the opportunities of greater trade and cooperation. And within the grandeur of the Queen's home, they also agreed to her request that the Prince of Wales succeeds her as head of the Commonwealth. The focus on making this organisation fit for the modern world.
England leaving Europe, Canada struggling with its own NAFTA deal. That the idea that we are a fraternity, we came from the same DNA in many instances, that there is some relevance.
Earlier, Boris Johnson held talks with African foreign ministers, including Zimbabwe's. The Foreign Secretary said Britain would support Zimbabwe rejoining the Commonwealth one day, but that would depend on the country embracing free elections, the rule of law, and human rights.
Theresa May had hoped to use this summit to highlight Britain's global ambitions after Brexit, but the row over Caribbean immigration has made that harder. The task today is for Commonwealth leaders to agree a new mission for an organisation that seems much valued, but often is in need of a role. James Landau, BBC News at the Commonwealth Summit in London.
Well, as we wait for that news conference on the results of this Commonwealth Summit, it's interesting that this issue of who succeeds the Queen as head of the Commonwealth has kind of come to dominate this summit, certainly coverage of this summit. And some members of the Commonwealth and delegates here regret that because they're worried that perhaps the Commonwealth is already seen as a bit of an anachronism, as a throwback to the days of the British Empire. And some people who say it needs to modernise and move on with the times and who favoured this rotating leadership of the Commonwealth are not so happy that it is now passing, as has been decided now, to the Prince of Wales, who has said that he has been committed very much to the Commonwealth throughout his life. But the Queen, no doubt, here at Buckingham Palace will be delighted that the 53 leaders who've been meeting at Windsor Castle in retreat have decided to endorse what she called her sincere wish. Well, we'll get more on all of this and the other issues the Commonwealth leaders have been discussing: the environment, protection of the oceans, cyber security and, of course, trade. We'll get more on that at a news conference later on this hour with the Prime Minister, the Secretary-General of the Commonwealth and other Commonwealth leaders. But from Buckingham Palace now, Jane, back to you in the studio.
Thanks, Ben. We'll see you a little bit later on. That news conference coming up a little bit later. Thanks very much. Now, our other main story tonight, Arsene Wenger is to leave Arsenal at the end of the season, ending a near 22-year reign as manager. His decision to stand down brings to an end one of the longest tenures at the head of a top-flight club, during which the Gunners won 3 Premier League titles and 7 FA Cups, including the double in 1998 and 2002. But they're now 6th in the league and are set to miss out on a top-4 spot for the 2nd consecutive season. Well, we're waiting for that news conference to get underway at the Emirates, of course, and we'll be back there for that. But first, our sports correspondent David Ornstein sent this report from the Emirates.
He was the man who brought glory to the Gunners, transformed Arsenal, revolutionised English football, established himself among the greats of the game.
Without defeat, without equal, without doubt, the best team in the land is Arsenal.
But in more recent years, Arsene Wenger has tasted a different side of the sport: intense criticism. We want Wenger, and we want Wenger. 3 FA Cups in 4 years have failed to satisfy many Arsenal supporters. Their team no longer keeping pace with their biggest rivals, nor challenging for the biggest trophies. Though even yesterday, the Frenchman was underlining his commitment to the team.
My personal situation is not so much my worry at the moment. If you have to give me some credit, if you look back in my career, you would realize, you would have to accept that my priority was always the interest of Arsenal Football Club.
Players and staff arrived at Arsenal's training ground this morning, unaware of what was about to unfold. The 68-year-old saying the decision followed careful consideration and that he was grateful having had the privilege to serve the club. It marks the end of an iconic era that saw Wenger introduce new training methods, a thrilling style of play with plenty to show for it. 3 Premier League titles, a record 7 FA Cups, and perhaps his greatest achievement, an entire league season unbeaten.
Was a dominating guy, mid-90s, maybe early 2000, when he was really winning pretty much everything. Played wonderful football, so I admired his work always.
The subject of Wenger's future has long divided Arsenal fans, yet today they were united.
A couple of cup wins have glossed over the cracks, but I think it's the right time.
I'm very sad that he's going. I wonder who we're going to get next.
And the tributes not only came from the sporting world, but also from one of Arsenal's most famous fans.
A wonderful, decent man, and he's put up with the most appalling abuse over the past few months particularly, and he stood it with dignity and with stoicism. Thank you, Arsene, for what you've done for the club. Whatever you decide to do in life, all the very, very best.
Well, we're actually going to go straight to the stadium because that news conference just getting underway inside. Here's Arsenal's CEO, Ivan Gazidis. Let's hear what he has to say.
Morning. That's who he is. People today are talking a lot and wonderfully about what Arsenal has done for Arsenal Football Club and what he's done for the wider world of football. I will leave it to others to talk about the facts and figures of his 22-year tenure. His achievements are extraordinary, and many of them will not be repeated. But there is something more coming out today. There's an affection, widespread affection from Arsenal fans, but also from people right across the sphere of football. And I've had the pleasure of working closely alongside Arsene over the last 10 years. And so what I'd like to do is talk a little bit about Arsene as a football man, but also as a person. Arsene changed the game. He set a totally new standard, a new ambition. An ambition not just to win, but to win while achieving perfection, to make art out of football. And he was always brave enough to be true to that extraordinary ambition. And incredibly, he achieved it with Arsenal's invincible season. People these days use the words football philosophy lightly, but Arsenal truly has a football philosophy, and he's been brave enough to live by it. And in doing that, he's reinvented the game and played some of the best football we've ever seen. He's transformed the beautiful game, and he's made Arsenal famous throughout the world for the style of football we play. Arsenal fans take enormous pride in that. And for that we say thank you, Arsene. Beyond football, he has inspired the people around him. He does this through his human qualities, his understanding and his empathy for people. He's able to make people believe that they can achieve great things on and beyond the football pitch. He inspired George Weah to believe not only that he could become the world's greatest footballer, but to have the conviction that he could become the president of a country. And he's done all of this while remaining true to his values and the values of this great football club. He's taken every challenge he's faced with humour, grace and class. I take enormous pride in that. And for that also, on behalf of all Arsenal fans, I say thank you, Arsene. Arsene often said his aim was to leave the club in a better position than when he found it. Well, we are in a better place today than we could ever have imagined 22 years ago. The foundations of this club have never been stronger, and this gives me great confidence as we begin to chart the path ahead. I spent an hour with Arsene this morning in the quiet after the announcement. No words can describe this man. He loves the game and he loves this club. I'm not here today to talk about any private discussions Today is about paying tribute to a great manager and a great man, and for me to discuss our priorities now as a club as we look forward. Our first priority is to come together as a club, and we're seeing that today. Look at the outpouring of affection from the Arsenal family and from the football family. Our players, staff and fans are behind this great man, and we will give him the send-off he deserves. And then we have to start on the challenge of building on the platform we have created. I don't underestimate that challenge. I've often said it's the biggest challenge we will have to face. But I'm confident in the people we have in place to take forward Arsene's legacy and build on it, and I'm excited for the future. In the coming weeks and months, the world will see the unity and power of this great football club and the people within it. I have the greatest respect for Arsene, and I value his incredible contribution to this club. It's my ambition, my goal, to ensure that we honour and build on that contribution as we take our club forward. Now it's for the club, now it's for Arsene, now it's for Arsenal. Thank you.
Find out, and what was your reaction when he told you?
I don't want to get into the private conversations. I don't think today is the day for that. I want to respect the privacy of the conversations that were had around the decision. Arsene will, speak on Sunday. But from my part today, it's really about paying tribute to a great man and talking about the club as we look forward.
You just paid a very, very fulsome tribute to Arsene Wenger. How difficult is it going to be to find somebody to replace it?
We're not going to find a replacement for Arsene Wenger. I think for a variety of reasons. Arsene is an extraordinary manager, an extraordinary person. He came into the game 22 years ago when the game was very, very different. It's evolved in so many ways, and Arsene has evolved with it. But when we look forward, the football club now is in a very, very different place than it was 22 years ago. And it's unthinkable to me that we are going to have another manager in the Premier League, let alone at Arsenal, who will be 22 years in tenure and have the kind of run of consistent success that Arsene had over those years.
Is it going to be a clean break, or is he going to have a role in the club going forward?
I think Arsene will always have a place at the club. Today it's too early to talk about what that might look like down the road. I think for today we're dealing with the announcement that was made this morning and the immediate reaction to that.
Finally, will he have a say in choosing his successor? Will you be asking him his opinion?
We're going to have a process around that. The process begins today, but I want to keep that process in-house. I don't want to be making public comments about it. We'll go through a respectful process. In accordance with Arsenal values and our respect for this man, we haven't had any discussions to date regarding that. So that process begins today. And I've said I don't underestimate the challenge of that. This club has to rise to the challenge. I'm confident we can do it. But as you started by saying, and as I started by saying, you don't find a replacement for Arsene Wenger, you find a new path forward.
Do you think he'll carry on as a manager, or has he told you that he's going to retire?
He is somebody who's in great shape. He has a competitive edge in the same way as he always has. But that's really a question for him now. Hello, David.
Can you explain to us why this is happening now?
Well, we wanted, all of us, to have the opportunity that, I would say two things. One, that the Arsenal family could come together and express our affection and our gratitude to this man. And so that meant providing an opportunity for that to happen. And I think you're going to see some fantastic atmospheres and of coming together of the Arsenal family in the 3 home games that we have remaining this season. Secondly, Arsene and the club need time to prepare. It's going to be a condensed summer with a World Cup right in the middle of it, a shortened transfer window. So I think for all of us, having the clarity sooner is better. And I think from the reaction at the training ground today, what I've felt is an incredible amount of passion, a coming together, an urgency, a desire to give Arsene the send-off that he deserves. And I'm convinced that our players and our fans will come behind that very, very strongly for the remainder of the season with the goals that we have left.
It's also come as a great shock to players, staff, fans, public. You've spoken glowingly of Arsene there. Do you feel convinced that this is the right decision?
Well, you know, the decision had to happen at some point. I think what I could say to that, David, is I don't think the club has ever been better prepared for that decision. And now it's time for us to look forward. And as I say, I think we can do it with confidence.
Just finally, Arsene obviously was in charge before you arrived here, and you and the newer staff fitted into the system that was already established. Now you have created the system around yourselves. So how confident are you that the club can return to previous levels of success and perhaps excel? Will it be you who the focus of attention is on now in that sense, or will the new manager have similar levels of power and influence as Arsene?
I don't think, you know, Arsene earned his position at this club over 22 years. I don't think there will be other managers, if you look forward, that have that kind of authority at the top of the game, at the biggest clubs. But obviously, it's the most important appointment that any club makes, and it's still the most important employee that any club has. So I don't diminish the role. I just think it would be unrealistic to think that anybody comes in with the breadth and scope that Arsene has had at Arsenal Football Club. I don't think it's true to say that the structure was created around Arsene to give us robustness looking forward. It's really something that Arsene played a full part in, making sure that the club was prepared and ready for the future. And it comes back to what he said, which is he wants to, when the day comes to leave the club, leave it in a stronger position than he found it. And I think he leaves us in a very strong position to look forward.
Arsenal's chief executive, Ivan Gazidis, saying it has been an emotional day. Arsene Wenger has set a new standard in football. He has transformed the beautiful game and inspired those around him. Our sports correspondent Alex Capstick has been at the Emirates all day talking to fans. And what have they been saying to you, Alex?
Well, Jane, yes, that was quite a tribute from Ivan Gazidis, the CEO here at Arsenal. He described what Arsene Wenger has done for this club and for English football as extraordinary. As you say, he set new standards, new ambitions for the club, and he felt that the entire staff here, including the players and the fans, were all now right behind Arsene Wenger. Well, I've got some people with very close links to the club. Stephen Powell, who's a writer with the Gooner magazine, Dan Betts, who's a blogger and a fan, and Luke Gagan, a long-time supporter here at Arsenal. Luke, Ivan Gazidis said that Arsene Wenger cannot be replaced. Is that a view shared amongst the fans, despite what's been happening inside the stadium recently?
Absolutely, I think so. I mean, look, I'm sure there's a section of the fan base today who probably have the champagne and balloons out by now, but to be totally honest, I think this is genuinely the end of an era, as cliche as that sounds. You're never going to see a manager take control of a club as large as this for as long as that ever again, and that's quite a feature to sort of focus on the fact that that is the end of that era now.
So genuine affection for Arsene Wenger, despite what has been a challenging season.
Yeah, absolutely. Look, I just think when the dust settles on this news a little bit, I just hope the fan base can come together a little bit more, as fractured as it's been, to sort of just really give this man the send-off he deserves. 22 years, it's no joke, and it's been a feature of all of our footballing lives, frankly, and so, yeah, he deserves it.
Dan, did this come as a surprise today?
Being an Arsenal fan, I think speculation is part of the territory. Through social media, we all have rumblings, but you can never really believe anything that you hear. Yes and no. I think, as an Arsenal fan, we all knew it was coming, but he's never really saw out, and he's never really cut a contract short, and he did this time. So yeah, I suppose it is. Yeah.
Okay, and finally, Stephen Powell, a lot of speculation as to who made the first move here. Was it Arsene Wenger, who'd had enough, or was it the board putting pressure on him?
I think we'll have a lot of social media speculation about that. We'll probably have, for the truth, we'll probably have to wait for autobiographies to come out in a while. I just hope now that the Arsenal fan base can come together and cheer on the team. What would be a wonderful ending to a wonderful manager would be for the Gooner Nation to be on the road to Lyon for the Europa League final next month.
Yeah, we shouldn't forget there are a few games left for Arsene Wenger, including Sunday's fixture here against West Ham United, and the board now can begin their search in earnest for a replacement. Back to you, Jane.
Alex, thanks very much for now. Alex Capstick at the Emirates in North London. Thank you. And with the time 5:25, we will just take a look at another of our main stories today. People in Salisbury have been warned there could still be dangerous levels of the nerve agent in the city following the poisoning of a former Russian spy and his daughter last month. Residents have been told that 9 locations need to be decontaminated. There's been frustration that some parts of the city still haven't been reopened, and specialists say work to clean up the sites could take months. Officials insist Salisbury is still safe to visit, and in just a moment I'll be speaking to the leader of Wiltshire Council. But first, this report from our Home Affairs correspondent Daniel Sanford.
It's almost 7 weeks now since Yulia and Sergei Skripal nearly died on a bench in Salisbury city centre. Businesses here are desperate for customers and tourists to return after the nerve agent attack, but footfall and takings are still down. One shopkeeper said the city is still like a ghost town. Rather than the cordons coming down, they're actually being strengthened and reinforced as Salisbury settles in for a clean-up that could take months.
Those hotspots will all be in the locations we're talking about.
At a public meeting, the chief scientist from the Department for the Environment tried to explain why. There could still be dangerous amounts of the Russian-designed deadly nerve agent in a few places in Salisbury behind those cordons.
That's an assumption. It's also one that we've tested in some cases, and we do know that there are hotspots like that around. So we have to make those assumptions that some of the hotspots we've still got to find.
When the Prime Minister visited Salisbury 5 weeks ago, promising to get the city back on its feet, the first place she visited was Dingham's cook shop. But today, Becca Hardingham, who runs the family-owned shop, says takings are still down.
It's frustrating because we just want to move on and carry on, but we can't. There's still things in the news, still people worried to come into Salisbury that business is struggling, and we're just a bit worried that Salisbury's going to die from it.
Among the Friday shoppers this morning, there was a mix of stiff upper lip and nervousness.
I will not walk down that side. I've crossed over the road today, but I wouldn't go around the corner or anything like that.
Until all this, all the risk is removed, it's going to be very hard for people to pick the pieces up. But we will all stand together.
The Skripals are making a good recovery. But despite weeks of free parking in the city, the concerns about toxic nerve agent hotspots have left Salisbury's economy struggling. Daniel Sanford, BBC News, Salisbury.
Well, let's talk to the leader of Wiltshire Council, that's Baroness Jane Scott, who joins us, in fact, from Norfolk tonight. But thank you very much for your time. Do you understand the concerns of local people and local business owners?
Oh, absolutely, I do, yes. Last night was the 4th public meeting we'd held in the 7 weeks, and my team is in contact daily with the businesses. We're very well aware, and we're doing everything we can. We have free parking across the city. That's been since the 2nd week. Those car parks are full at times, but we know the footfall's down. And we are doing a lot of marketing, but it is quite difficult while we've still got cordons in the city.
Yes, I mean, the footfall in the worst affected areas, though, is down 60 to 70%. Now, if you own a business or you're even employed by a business in that zone, That's extraordinarily worrying, isn't it? I'm wondering what more you can say to people.
Well, we have given out over £100,000 worth of support for those businesses, both rate relief but also small grants, and we'll continue to do that, and the businesses know where we are and can get in touch with us, and we're knocking on their doors quite regularly. So we can do that, and we've got the money both from government, from the local enterprise partnership and from the council to do that. So that's one thing we can do. We are looking at pop-up shops, so some of those shops can move from particularly the Maltings area into other parts of the city if they want to do so. And in the meantime, we just have to keep marketing the city as we've done right from the beginning. But realistically, until those cordons are down, it is going to be more difficult to sell the city, and especially for tourism, I have to say.
And when the specialists say to you, in some parts, the clean-up could take months, I mean, your heart must just sink.
Yes, it isn't good. I mean, the 9 months has been mentioned, but I do think that's the worst case scenario. Let's hope that when they get in there, they start cleaning up, and the whole process is cleaning, testing, and if necessary, cleaning again. So what we hope to find is that once they've done the thorough clean, that it is completely safe, and the scientists tell us it's safe, and then the cordons can come down, because it's when those cordons can come down, particularly in the city, and that's Zizi's, the restaurant, the Mill pub, and the Maltings. Once those are down, then we will have to get out and we will have to market the city of Salisbury as the great city that it is, yes, and get people back in again.
And are plans for that sort of marketing and practical help already being worked on?
Oh, they are. They have been from almost day one. We have a tourist organisation called Visit Wiltshire. They're working very closely with Visit England. The government is supporting them with finances, but also with marketing tools, etc. And so we're on the case. The most important thing is, I mean, this summer and Easter have been affected. There's no two ways about it. People are cancelling, but we need to make sure that next summer that, you know, we have those tourists back in the city.
And in terms of local people, do you think some people are avoiding some parts of the city unnecessarily, that actually people are more scared than they need to be?
Yes, they are. I mean, DEFRA made it very clear a couple of weeks ago that outside the cordons, so the rest of the city that's not behind those cordons, is safe. And I think we have to understand that. I walk around the city, thousands of people walk around that city very, very safely every day. And we have to just keep going out and giving that message.
Baroness Jane Scott, the leader of Wiltshire Council, thank you very much for your time tonight. Thank you. Just to tell you, news coming through in relation to the Commonwealth, confirmation coming through in the leader's statement at the end of the Heads of Government meeting that Prince Charles has been approved to succeed the Queen as the head of the Commonwealth. It's not a hereditary title, of course, which is why there's been so much debate about this. But as we were saying earlier in the day, the BBC understood that that was going to be the case, and we've now had that confirmation. And there will be more details in the leader's statement. We're expecting a news conference at Chogham around about 1:45, perhaps. We will have more from the meeting, second day of which is actually in Windsor, of course. These are pictures from the first day yesterday at Buckingham Palace. More from Windsor a little bit later. But with the time already after past, let's pause, let's catch up with the weather prospects. Ben Rich has those.
Hello, Jane. Thank you. Good evening to you. What a week of weather it has turned out to be. Blue skies overhead. Temperatures certainly yesterday got up to 29 degrees. Not quite as high today, but not far behind. So what happens for the weekend? Well, actually things start to change. It'll gradually turn cooler and fresher, but there is the risk of some thunderstorms as that cool down takes place. So a lovely evening out there, and then as we go through the night, we'll see some clear spells, some fog patches too. Always some misty, murky conditions still clinging to some Irish Sea coasts, and temperatures generally not dropping too far, just a little bit chilly across parts of the northeast. Saturday, on first glance, looks like another fine day with spells of sunshine once any early mist and fog has cleared. However, a bit of a change down to the south we're likely to bring in some heavy thundery showers. Quite hit and miss, but later in the day, these could turn really heavy with hail and thunder mixed in. Still some warmth down to the south, 26 degrees, but cooler and fresher across Scotland and Northern Ireland. And more of us get into the cool air on Sunday. We take a weather front southwards and eastwards, some patchy rain with that. Behind it, a mixture of sunshine and showers, temperatures really dipping away, but still some warmth left over across the far southeast.
Hello, you're watching BBC News. These are the latest headlines. Commonwealth leaders have agreed that Prince Charles will one day succeed the Queen as the head of the organisation. It follows a meeting of more than 50 leaders who've been considering the future direction of the Commonwealth. After nearly 22 years in charge, Arsène Wenger will step down as Arsenal manager at the end of this season. Former rival Sir Alex Ferguson says he's one of the greatest Premier League managers. The clear-up in Salisbury is continuing as government scientists warn that the decontamination of 9 hotspots could take months. And the good weather looks likely to last into the weekend, and people running the London Marathon on Sunday are warned to take extra precautions. And we will get all the latest sports news now with Lizzie Greenwood-Hughes. Hello, Lizzie.
Hello, Jane. Thanks very much. We're going to start, of course, with more reaction to the news today that Arsène Wenger is stepping down as the Arsenal manager. After 22 years at the club in which he's won 3 Premier League titles and a record 7 FA Cups, Wenger will leave at the end of the season, a year before his contract expires. Arsenal can only finish 6th in the table, their worst position under Wenger, although they are in the semi-finals of the Europa League. Well, the club's chief executive, Ivan Gazidis, has just been speaking at a press conference, and it was clear Wenger is going to be very difficult to replace.
Arsène changed the game. He set a totally new standard, a new ambition. An ambition not just to win, but to win while achieving perfection, to make art out of football. And he was always brave enough to be true to that extraordinary ambition. And incredibly, he achieved it with Arsenal's invincible season.
Well, Wenger's old rival, Sir Alex Ferguson, had, of course, plenty of run-ins with him. The former Manchester United manager has reacted to the news, saying, "I have great respect for him and for the job he's done at Arsenal. He is, without doubt, one of the greatest Premier League managers, and I am proud to have been a rival, a colleague and a friend to such a great man." So who will succeed Wenger as Arsenal manager? Well, one man who's climbed up the list with the bookmakers this afternoon is the Celtic manager, Brendan Rodgers, who's previously been in charge of Liverpool and Swansea. Celtic have today said they will not stand in Rodgers' way if he is approached by Arsenal. Well, the former captain, Patrick Vieira, is also linked to succeed Wenger. He's currently manager of New York City FC. Other names in the frame are the former Dortmund boss, Thomas Tuchel, Germany coach Joachim Löw, and the former Chelsea manager, Carlo Ancelotti. On to rugby union now, and news this afternoon that the Wasps hooker Ashley Johnson has been suspended after failing a drugs test. The 31-year-old South African is accused of testing positive for a prohibited substance in an out-of-competition test on the 7th of February. Johnson last featured for Wasps in their Premiership win over London Irish at the beginning of last month. They are currently 3rd in the table, still aiming for the playoffs. The club have released a statement saying Ashley is currently investigating the possible source of the substance. We are fully supportive of him, but are unable to comment any further due to legal proceedings. Rafael Nadal has thrashed Austria's Dominik Thiem to reach a record 14th Monte Carlo Masters semi-finals. The world number 1 is bidding for his 11th victory at the clay court event. He won 6-love, 6-2 in just over an hour. Thiem beat the former world number 1 Novak Djokovic in the last 16 yesterday. Cricket news now, and the former England batsman Ed Smith says his new role as national selector was too good to turn down. Smith replaces James Whittaker, who left in March after 5 years in the role. Smith played 3 tests for England and retired in 2008, having also played first-class cricket for Kent and Middlesex, where he was captain. More recently, he's worked as a commentator on the BBC's Test Match special. And finally, the marathon, of course, this Sunday. There's going to be extra water, ice and showers available to runners in the London Marathon. Organisers are sending advice to athletes this week, with forecasts suggesting that Sunday's race could surpass the 22.2 degrees centigrade record in both 1996 and 2007. Back then, 4 run-through showers were installed along the route, and an extra 2,600 bottles of water added to the normal stock of 25,000 bottles of water at each water station. That's all the sports news for me for now. But as always, of course, you can find out much more on the BBC Sport website at bbc.co.uk/sport. We'll have more for you in Sports Day 6:30. Join us then.
Thanks, Lizzie. Thank you. A BBC reporter has told the High Court that he had an understanding with a senior detective about the police search of Sir Cliff Richard's home in 2014. Officers launched an investigation after receiving an allegation of sexual assault. The singer was never arrested or charged. Our correspondent Helena Lee has been following the case. Helena.
Well, Jane, Sir Cliff Richard left the High Court here in the last half an hour or so after day 7 of his privacy case against BBC News. He is suing the BBC for a very substantial amount in terms of damages. His lawyers are arguing in court that they seriously invaded his privacy when they covered a police raid on his property apartment in Sunningdale in 2014. But today the focus once again has been on the BBC News reporter Dan Johnson. Now, he's the reporter who got the exclusive on the story about Sir Cliff Richard being investigated, and we heard a bit more today about his dealings with South Yorkshire Police. Now, in court today, an email was read out. It was written by a senior BBC News manager, Gary Smith. He was talking about South Yorkshire Police and Dan Johnson in this email. And in the email, it said they felt their own course of action to protect their inquiry was to cooperate totally with him. This suggests to me an extreme naivety on their part, but it also suggests, and Dan doesn't entirely deny this, a rather heavy-handed approach by him. He seems to have been nailing them to a wall. Well, then in court, Jane, there was an exchange between the barrister representing South Yorkshire Police and Dan Johnson in the witness box. And the barrister asked him, what led Mr. Smith to take the view that your conduct suggested a rather heavy-handed approach? Dan Johnson replied, he'd clearly heard the account of Carrie Goodwin. She's a head of press at South Yorkshire Police. He went on, I was quite surprised. And my initial reaction, well, I'm mystified, he said. Why is she saying that? I don't think I have acted at all like that. Well, Dan Johnson had been giving evidence for more than 7 hours in this case, over 3 days. He finished his evidence today, and we touched briefly on evidence from a further witness, somebody called Declan Wilson. He was the Northern Bureau editor for BBC News, and he was managing Dan Johnson at the time. He told the court that Dan Johnson was a really solid reporter and mature for his years and calm. And he also said in a witness statement, Jane, he was incredulous when the reporter first told him about an allegation against Sir Cliff. He said it was potentially a very significant story. He would never forget when he was told. Court here has now finished for the day. It will resume on Monday at 10:30 when we expect to hear more evidence from senior BBC News editors about the decisions they made in terms of the coverage of that story. Jane.
Helena, thank you for now. Helena Lee there. The parents of Alfie Evans have lost their latest legal battle to prevent his life support being withdrawn. The 23-month-old has a degenerative neurological condition and is being cared for at Alder Hey Hospital in Liverpool. It was the second time his parents had been to the Supreme Court. They want to take their son to Italy for treatment. A woman has died in a fire at a block of flats for adults with learning disabilities in Chingford in north-east London. More than 70 firefighters were called to the blaze, which took hold in the early hours of this morning. The cause of the fire isn't yet known. A man has been given a 16-year prison sentence for throwing acid over a man and a woman in East London last year. 25-year-old John Tomlin carried out the unprovoked attack last June. His victims suffered horrific injuries to their face and bodies, which the judge described as life-changing. Philip Hammond has been speaking to financial services in New York about Britain's departure from the EU. The Chancellor said businesses are optimistic about the progress that's been made, and they're watching carefully to see how Britain takes negotiations with the European Union forward. Speaking after the IMF meeting, Philip Hammond repeated his confidence for Britain's economic prospects.
The decision to leave the European Union and then the process of negotiating how our future relationship will work is a source of uncertainty. Business responds to uncertainty by slowing down investment. Households respond to uncertainty by postponing big purchases, and that has a dampening effect on the economy. So yes, it has an impact. As we go through this year, I would hope and expect that as we deliver more and more clarity about what the future of our relationship with the European Union will be, we'll start to see that effect unwinding, businesses starting to deal with the backlog of investment, and households feeling a bit more confident about making big purchases. And all of those things will have a positive effect on the economy.
Philip Hammond there speaking, as you will see from the backdrop, speaking in Washington, D.C., not in New York. Apologies for that, speaking to the BBC a little earlier. The EU's chief Brexit negotiator, Michel Barnier, has warned that there is still a chance that talks on Britain's withdrawal from the bloc could fail. He said that while 3/4 of the deal had been agreed, the Irish border issue remains a key stumbling block. Our correspondent Gavin Lee is in Brussels and gave us the latest on that.
This is the EU's chief Brexit negotiator, Michel Barnier, making crystal clear today that whilst 3/4 they are pretty much in agreement on between the UK side and the EU side on what's the Brexit deal or the withdrawal agreements that both the UK and the European Parliament have to ratify by March next year. The last 25%, well, because of the serious issues involved, he said could be problematic and risks failure, he said, the chief problem being the border between the Republic and Northern Ireland. This is what he had to say on French TV, France 2, earlier today.
For the moment, we're preparing the orderly withdrawal of the UK, with 25% not agreed, and that includes serious issues, especially the question of Ireland.
The other issue today is that some newspapers have been reporting that there are problems between the British and the European side when it comes to the Northern Ireland border specifically, and the BBC understands that the EU have said they've ruled out line by line the two chief proposals being put forward of how you solve the issue. One of them is having what they call a partnership for customs, basically all the duties paid for on the Northern Ireland side by the British government for goods going to the EU, and having an alignment, so basically having technology used for scanning at a trusted scheme for vehicles, and smaller vehicles being able to move freely through that 300-mile border. Now the EU side, we understand, say at the moment it simply is unacceptable, it's inappropriate for the size of the border. The British side, a spokesperson for the Prime Minister today, saying that they believe that's not their understanding of the negotiations so far, and they will keep going ahead and believe there is a reachable solution. This, essentially, there are more rounds of talks, about 4 we expect, before a key summit of the EU here in June.
Gavin Lee there in Brussels. You're watching the BBC News at 5. These are the headlines. Commonwealth leaders who've been meeting in Windsor today have agreed that Prince Charles will one day succeed the Queen as head of the organisation. Soon but not forgotten, after nearly 22 years in charge, Arsene Wenger will step down as Arsenal manager at the end of this season. And the clear-up in Salisbury continues, as government scientists warn the decontamination of 9 hotspots could take months. And just to explain, of course, normally at this time on a Friday, you would expect the film review with Mark Kermode. We haven't forgotten about it. It is coming. However, we are waiting for a news conference from that Commonwealth Heads of Government meeting. So just to tell you, the film review with Mark coming up at 8:45 tonight. At 8:45 tonight, you can see it as usual, and it will run as usual, of course, over the weekend as well at various times. But not running in this slot because we're waiting for that news conference to get underway. It's the formal end of the Commonwealth meeting, and hasn't quite got underway yet, but once that does get underway, we will carry that for you. Right now, though, let's talk about another big event this weekend, because Sunday is, of course, the London Marathon, and it promises to be one of the hottest in the history of the event. Organisers are therefore warning runners to take precautions. Temperatures are forecast to exceed 20 degrees. But anticipation is running high for other reasons as well. Mo Farah is competing in the men's race for the first time since quitting his track career, as our sports correspondent Joe Wilson now reports.
This is the same Mo Farah. What's different is the distance and the scenery. On the track, he beat everyone, everywhere. But moving to the marathon, 26 miles, 35 years old, he warns us to be realistic.
It's going to be totally different. London Marathon is one of the big marathons in the world and the best marathons, and it seems to put in most of the best runners do turn up here. So Sunday's race is going to be a difficult one. I'm ranked number 27, so we'll see.
But the thing is, Mo, knowing you, you're not going to have gone on this marathon journey without thinking it's going to end in glory.
No.
I mean, it has to end in Tokyo with a gold medal, doesn't it?
No, it's possible, and my aim is to be able to run as many marathons as I can, to learn about them and to run decent times.
He's got about 30 seconds to get across that line.
In 1984, a Welshman called Steve Jones, who worked for the RAF, completed his first marathon in Chicago. He ran the distance quicker than anyone ever before. Jones still holds the British marathon record set in the 1980s. Does he think Farah will break it on Sunday?
Without a doubt. In my mind, you know, even if the conditions are warm on the weekend, you know, where's he been training? He's been in Ethiopia, and I don't see much snow or rain around the many pictures I've seen of him training there. So this is going to be like a training run for him.
But for the masses, the heat will be a challenge. This year, think carefully before wearing fancy dress, the organisers advise. But the marathon will always push runners to the limit. That is the point. Remember this from last year. David Wyeth helped to the finishing line by Matthew Rees. Two strangers united. And they are back this year, urging competitors to be sensible.
Got to pay attention to the weather, got to rein in the pace. You know, maybe this year isn't the one for a PB, but it's certainly going to be one to be enjoyed.
And you're not going to be stopping for this guy this year, no?
Well, I hope not. We'll both just run our own race and we'll see each other at the end.
Yeah, Matt is a great runner, and he's even more inspired these days to get out in front and stay in front. Don't cross paths with me.
Lovely. Perfect.
As for Mo Farah, well, he knows what the photographers need. London's organisers acknowledge he's being paid a lot to compete here, but told me he's worth every penny. Joe Wilson, BBC News, Tower Bridge.
Well, full coverage of the marathon, of course, on BBC television and radio on Sunday morning. Now, as we were saying, we're expecting the closing news conference from the Commonwealth Heads of Government meeting, and the stage set there. It looks like the news conference might get underway fairly soon. While we wait for that to start, let's just get the thoughts of my colleague Ben Brown, because he's been following this throughout. He's at Buckingham Palace, because that was the focus of all the pomp and ceremony yesterday, Ben, and we closed tonight with confirmation about succession.
Yes, and really, I suppose it was here yesterday morning, Jane, at the palace in the ballroom when the Queen started the ball rolling on that issue of the succession. As she said, it was my sincere wish that when the time comes, her son and heir, Prince Charles, does take over as head of the Commonwealth. It is not a hereditary position, so the Commonwealth leaders have had to agree that. We understand they have agreed that at their closed session at Windsor Castle today. So this news conference that we're about to see, which is at Marlborough House, we may or may not get an official announcement on that. We're not quite sure how that is going to be announced. But certainly there are a lot of other issues, and maybe this question of the succession has dominated or overshadowed this summit, but plenty of other big issues that they've been talking about, the 53 leaders who represent, don't forget, 2.4 billion people around the world, a vast swathe of the world's population. They've been talking about environment, protection of the oceans, their blue charter as they call it, how best to stop the pollution of the oceans with plastic and much else besides. They've also been talking about cyber security in the wake of the threat from Russia, about the global security order as well, and trade. And from Britain's point of view, trade very important in the post-Brexit era. Once we leave the European Union, certainly going to be looking for new trading partners within the Commonwealth in particular. Here they are. Here are the leaders. Theresa May, The British Prime Minister will speak for about 5 minutes, and the Secretary General as well of the Commonwealth, Patricia Scotland. So let's listen in. They're going to be taking questions afterwards, but opening statements first on what they've decided.
On the seats of your chairs when you came in, the Commonwealth is issuing 5 press releases today, plus the communique, so it's all there for you to read. It's also all online on the Commonwealth's website, and we've emailed it to all CHOGM accredited journalists. We've got a fabulous turnout of heads of government to tell us how the week has gone. To my immediate right is Theresa May, Prime Minister of the United Kingdom. To her right is Patricia Scotland, Secretary General of the Commonwealth. And next to her is the President of Ghana, Nana Akufo-Addo. Next to the President of Ghana is Keith Mitchell. He's the Prime Minister of Grenada. And finally, the Honourable Tulila Epa, the Prime Minister of Samoa. So if there's one thing I think we can all agree on is what a fabulous host the UK government turned out to be. So to start the press conference off, I'd like to ask Theresa May, the Prime Minister of the UK, to give her remarks. Prime Minister.
Thank you very much. This week we have demonstrated that the Commonwealth is united not only by a common history, but by a common future. A future in which we work together for the benefit of all our citizens and for the wider world. For when many of the greatest challenges we face are global in nature, the breadth of the Commonwealth, spanning 6 continents and 1/3 of the world's population, offers a unique perspective in helping to forge the global solutions we need. No other organisation has our geographical and cultural diversity, while giving all nations an equal role, an equal voice and an equal standing. And this week we have come together to reach a series of shared commitments that will help to build a more secure, more sustainable, more prosperous and fairer future for all. This is the first time that security has been a central theme of our leaders' meeting, and we have shown our resolve to stand together in defence of the rules-based international system and in defiance of those who threaten us all by seeking to undermine it. Earlier this month, the Assad regime violated international rules in the most egregious way by using chemical weapons in an indiscriminate and barbaric attack on its own people. And while of a much lower order of magnitude, the use of a nerve agent on the streets of Salisbury here in the United Kingdom last month is part of a pattern of disregard for those same global norms that prohibit the use of chemical weapons. At this summit, the Commonwealth has shown that it will play its part in a renewed international effort to uphold the global norms that say these abhorrent weapons should never, ever be used. The communiqué we have agreed today expresses our unanimous opposition to the use of these weapons and our commitment to strengthen the effective implementation of the Chemical Weapons Convention. We must also update our shared international norms so they can protect us from new and emerging threats online. So we have secured the world's largest and most geographically diverse intergovernmental commitment on cyber security cooperation. The Commonwealth Cyber Declaration will help protect our people and businesses from ever more sophisticated digital threats and counter those who would abuse the freedom of the internet to undermine our values, our security, and even our democracies. When it comes to building a more sustainable future, there are few more authentic voices than the Commonwealth, with many island states severely affected by extreme weather events and the scourge of plastics polluting our oceans. Indeed, we are in London today because of the devastation wrought on Vanuatu by Cyclone Pam in 2015. So as a global leader in the fight against climate change, we are proud that every nation of the Commonwealth has now ratified the Paris Agreement. And every one of our nations is united behind its highest ambition of pursuing efforts to limit the increase in global average temperature to 1.5 degrees Celsius above pre-industrial levels. At this summit, we have taken specific action to protect our oceans with the first ever Commonwealth Blue Charter. The UK and Vanuatu are working together to launch the Commonwealth Clean Oceans Alliance to tackle the scourge of plastic pollution. and we are already seeing a series of commitments that can mark a breakthrough in the battle to save our oceans. For instance, Papua New Guinea has banned plastic bags. Belize will ban plastic bags, forks and other single-use items by 2019. New Zealand has announced a ban on microbeads, which will come into effect in June. The Bahamas is planning to ban plastic bags this year. And the UK has pledged to ban plastic straws, stirrers and plastic-stemmed cotton buds. This is only the beginning of what will be a defining agenda for the United Kingdom's 2-year chair in office. And I'm pleased that Prime Minister Trudeau has indicated he will also make this a priority for the G7 in Canada this summer. A more sustainable future also means stepping up the fight for better global health. With over 90% of Commonwealth citizens living in malaria-affected countries, the Commonwealth has a particular duty to lead international efforts to tackle this deadly disease. So earlier this week, I called on Commonwealth leaders to pledge to halve malaria across the Commonwealth by 2023, and I'm pleased that this has been agreed today. In building a more prosperous future, this is the first Commonwealth summit to make a unanimous statement on the need to fight protectionism. Our declaration on the Commonwealth connectivity agenda for trade and investment will help to expand investment and boost intra-Commonwealth trade to a value of $2 trillion by 2030. And we will play a leading role in shaping the future of global trade policy, using our unique perspective to help ensure that free and fair trade truly works for everyone. This includes stepping up efforts to share the technical expertise to enable small and developing states to benefit from the growth of free and fair trade. It means addressing systemic barriers to women's full and equal participation in the economy, including increasing opportunities for women to trade internationally and supporting the growth of more women-owned businesses. And it means investing in supporting our young people to gain new skills. And at this summit, we have pledged to ensure that all girls and boys across the Commonwealth will be able to access at least 12 years of quality education and learning by 2030. Finally, we have reaffirmed our commitment to a fairer future in which everyone is free to live their life and fulfil their potential. We agreed the critical importance of the full social, economic and political participation of all our citizens for democracy and sustainable development to thrive. I've been clear that nobody should face persecution or discrimination because of who they are or who they love. And the United Kingdom stands ready to support any Commonwealth member wanting to reform outdated legislation that permits discrimination, including against same-sex relations. We will continue to protect and advance our core values of democracy, good governance and human rights at the heart of fairer societies. And we welcomed the return of the Gambia to our family of nations. This week has also given me the opportunity to hold a series of important meetings with Commonwealth leaders. On Tuesday, I met with Caribbean leaders, where I gave an absolute commitment that the UK government will do whatever it takes, including where appropriate payment of compensation, to resolve the anxieties and problems which some of the Windrush generation have suffered. These people are British, they are part of us, they helped to build Britain, and we are all the stronger for their contributions. This week began with the most inspiring gathering of young leaders from across our 53 nations, and it is with those young leaders where the future of our Commonwealth lies. So we were delighted to welcome the appointment of His Royal Highness Prince Harry as the Commonwealth Youth Ambassador. Looking to that future, we have also reached an important longer-term agreement about the role of the head of the Commonwealth. When Her Majesty the Queen assumed the throne, the Commonwealth had just 8 members. Today, it has 53. We meet here today in no small measure because of the vision, duty and steadfast service of Her Majesty in nurturing the growth of this remarkable family of nations. And on behalf of all our citizens, I want to express the depth of our gratitude for everything that Her Majesty has done and will continue to do. Today, we have agreed that the next head of the Commonwealth shall be His Royal Highness Prince Charles, the Prince of Wales. His Royal Highness has been a proud supporter of the Commonwealth for more than 4 decades and has spoken passionately about the organisation's unique diversity. And it is fitting that one day he will continue the work of his mother, Her Majesty the Queen. As we begin the UK's 2-year chair in office, I look forward to working with all our Commonwealth partners in fulfilling the commitments we have made and preparing for the next meeting, which we have today agreed will be held in Rwanda in 2020. I began this week by saying that for the Commonwealth to endure, we must demonstrate our relevance and purpose anew. Today, I believe we have done that. Our Blue Charter, our Cyber Declaration, our commitments to uphold the rules-based international order, to fight protectionism, to defeat malaria, and to invest in education for all our young people. In all these ways and more, the Commonwealth has found its voice, and we can look forward to a bright future with confidence.